Hello again, this is Colleen, and welcome to the second video or set of slides with audio, I guess is a more accurate way of putting it. But the first compilation of lessons and what I call Unit 1, the topic here is what is mental health? I'm going to just go through these so that you know what to expect. I'll probably let you click on all the links to assignments and videos in your own time on the set of slides that does not have me talking. But I can briefly go through the learning targets. Again, self-worth and self-esteem are closely tied to good mental health, mental well-being. And so for the first lesson, or lessons in this particular set of lessons, and they are scaffolded or go in a certain order, but of course you can use them in any order that you wish. But I'm going to have students explore their identity and the importance of having a positive self-image. This particular set of lessons is highly photograph and video based in order to appeal to as wide an audience as possible, because there are no students for whom videos and audios, or videos and pictures rather, are inappropriate. But I want them to really understand that mental illness and concerns are both common and treatable. Then there's a series of articles, videos that can be articles that could be read aloud, videos that can be viewed and discussed in class. There are activities to practice addressing the stigma of mental illness. It's often very good practice to give students language to use, and so they'll practice determining some positive and negative phrases. And then optional, of course, is the final project, one of two, one is to create a circle of control / no control, which is quite revealing. It's really fun to talk to students about what they believe they have control over in their lives. And then the idea of a mandala to represent wholeness, and also bringing in some calming art. Some students have, already do this on their own, but it's well known that there are coloring books for adults now, so a mandala to color and just help maintain their mental well-being. The table of contents is listed here. There are 7 lessons of varying lengths, and I've tried to differentiate many of them to the extent that I could. And again, you are welcome to get higher level readings, lower level readings, whatever it is that you'd like to do. There are one website in particular that I used a lot for readings for these lessons, and that is News ELA, or sometimes people call it Newsela. And as you know, that the articles on that website can be found in a variety of reading levels, and so that's what makes them highly suitable to this set of lessons. So the first lesson is entitled Who Am I? And I have a series of identities photos that contain questions at the bottom that students can view, and I did get permission to use these photos, so never fear. But I imagine that these could be used for a whole class activity where everybody just talks about them, or you could break students up into groups and assign a couple of photos to the group to report back to class on what they believe that they're seeing. And there's really no right or wrong with this inquiry method, where they're looking at what do they know about these people in these photos, and kind of all ties into the question of identity. Then there are questions again that they can talk about as they go through the photos, or that you can have them provide written answers to. Simply is up to the teacher. For lesson 2, let's take a look at what students already know about mental health and what are their beliefs around it. And to do that, they can look at pictures. There are just 4 pictures photographs that I found here for them to look at, and they can consider, what do they notice, what do they wonder, and see how can they relate to these photos, if at all. I actually have the photos here. Because again, this set of slides could be used with students, just projecting these up onto your smartboard. Some students might be surprised or resistant to the idea that a child could experience mental health concerns, but in fact, that is the case. And in this photo, you might have students who are veterans in your classes, or have relatives who are veterans, or even students from occupied countries would have likely a different take on this particular image. So it would be an interesting discussion. Going on to consider more information about mental health, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC website, has a whole section on mental health. And if you just follow the prompts here, click on the Learn About Mental Health tab and read Mental Health Basics. They're going to provide some grounding for students. And then there are some questions on a handout that students can discuss again or provide written answers to. With Lesson 3, students will watch a video. Well, first they'll start out reflecting on what have they learned so far about mental health. And then I have something called an outcome sentences reflection that has sentence starters or stems such as I learned, or I was surprised that, or I wonder about. And this is a nice way to get students to kind of write and share their reflections on what they know about mental health. And then we're going to watch a video, and this video is so interesting. It's called An Emptiness in My Heart, Coping with Mental Illness in a Foreign Land. And the person in the video talks about how depression is everything you swallow. It's just a powerful video and very relatable to our students. And there are questions that I compiled to go along with the video, again, for discussion or written answers. And then moving on to Lesson 4, now that we talked about mental health and mental illness, and always emphasizing, of course, that these are conditions that are highly treatable and quite common, we can think about breaking the stigma. So for the first assignment here, the link is to some vocabulary, break the stigma vocabulary. Then there's a video to watch. And then it'd be interesting to have students take a survey. The first survey that I included here is a very long survey that goes with these materials, but then I modified it and created a shorter Google Forms survey. And remember to make a copy of the Google Forms survey if that's something that you prefer to use. So it'll be interesting to see what students' perceptions are at this point, I think. As we move on to Lesson 5, again, it's important to emphasize that it's okay to get help. And in fact, this particular assignment here is about a 5th grader who wrote a book to raise awareness and break the stigma, and then answer the questions, again in writing or via discussion. A lot of watching videos, looking at images, some reading, some discussion, and that's all of those activities can be as cursory or as in-depth as your student body allows. Here we have a link to some tips for talking and what to say when you're considering the topic of mental health and mental illnesses. And then even to give further practice in this, I have some role play scenarios that students can practice the phrases and consider what they would do in these various circumstances. Moving on, now students can review these positive or negative phrases, sort them into a graphic organizer. I always like to use a graphic organizer in a variety of ways over multiple weeks to show students that they can be used for different purposes, and a T-chart is just one of my favorites. And then finally, there's a final quiz about mental health. To wrap it up, we've got, again, as I mentioned earlier, some hands-on or personalized assignments, circle of control or no control, which is very simple. And if you click the link there, you can find the materials that would be necessary for this activity, very easy. And then it's always interesting to hear about what students, how could they make those things that they feel are out of their control? How could they gain more control over those things? It's always a good discussion. The mandalas activity that I referenced earlier. A mandala is a circle. It means wholeness. And there's a whole history that you could explore in advance of just simply coloring a mandala and explaining that this is a good way to get out of your head and practice some self-care. And the conclusion of these slides includes some other resources to build more background knowledge, other videos if students are really, really interested and they want to go on and learn more. And then, of course, all the lessons are aligned to our ABE standards that are listed here. So I thank you very much for taking this time to explore the lessons with me. Now you can go back over the lessons more in depth. You can click the links and see what the assignments look like. Remember to make a copy for yourself so that you always have these and that you can adapt them in any way you so desire. Thank you again, and take care.